if it pushed through, because it should have. All righty, so I think we may be live, Joseph. So I don't want to be called a
Awesome.
liar. Let me go over and check it out real quick.
Sounds good.
We are live. All right. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome everyone.
All right. So we're going to get started in about 2 seconds because we are only doing this on YouTube. So we are on episode 40. Can you believe that, Joseph?
Cannot believe that, dude.
Crazy.
40 that's 40 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what you've been doing for the past 40 weeks besides sitting at home, picking your nose. 40 weeks is really, really
You're
long
coming
time.
out pretty aggressive there right off the
now
bat,
that now that
Joseph.
now we've said that, uh, my bad. My bad.
When's the last time
Oh
somebody
man.
was at home picking their nose?
Yeah, yesterday.
Mm,
Yesterday and
true.
this morning. Pretty
True.
positive.
Well, today we get to, this is really I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I will. This is one of your passions, virtual assistants. It's one of my newfound passions. And I think that you had a lot to do with that formation, a lot of the things that I've learned on how to implement virtual assistants in my business from even the personal side, not just my business, has been through you. So I just want to, before we kick off the Agent Lead Source podcast, I want to thank you because you showed me the light and it's bright. I like it.
Well, I am glad that you've seen the light. It is a good place to be, for sure. If you know how to do it right, which I think you've learned over time, and you've done really well to help your business out in the YouTube space, and leveraging the VA, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, man, it's fantastic. So I'm glad that you jumped on board and you've taken control of that for your own self.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well, let's officially get it started if that's okay.
Let's get it started. I don't want to get us dinged for
They
for
got
using
sounded
parts
so
of us.
much like Fergie. We're gonna get a copyright. So on point.
They're
They
coming to
don't
get
want
us.
that. Alrighty, alrighty. Well, welcome everybody to the Agent Lead Source Podcast, episode 40. Today we're discussing virtual assistants and how to generate real estate leads through a very special method, which we're gonna get right into it. But before we do that, Joseph, what's up, man?
Oh man, let's see what's going on. So we're located here in Singapore. Those of you who don't know, I'm located here in Singapore. Most of you who have joined the podcast before and listened to us or watched us on Facebook or YouTube know that. We are currently in we've been in a semi lockdown. We don't call it a lockdown, I guess. We call it a higher level phase. And with that phase, we can't go out to eat. We cannot go out in groups more than of pairs, to do pretty much anything. So on June the 14th, they're going to release some things. And then on June 21st, we can start eating at restaurants again. And so that'll be a big deal here because, unlike the US where things have just been open for a long time, here things were open way before everywhere else. But anytime we get just a little bit of a hint of possibility of things kind of escalating, meaning like 30 people possibly having the C-19, we'll call it, we shut things down. It's good and bad, right? Good because keep everybody safe, bad because you can't go do anything. So anyway, that's what's going on my side of the world. What's going on your side of the world, as Al Roker would say.
Well, for us, we've been pretty open. Well, you're very familiar with Texas because that's where you lived prior to heading over there. So we've been pretty open, we've had large gatherings, which has been pretty cool. I actually went to the soccer game
Oh,
when
nice.
we played here. I think Iceland is who we beat. So it was pretty fun.
Mhm.
It was pretty fun. Everything else is going well. Business is going well. Just it's like that momentum that we were talking about off air, blog, YouTube, and everything else. It just seems like everything is kind of coming in together, and a lot of it has to do with virtual assistants. So
Yeah,
super
fantastic.
excited.
Well, let's start talking about how to teach other people how to do this so they can do it for their business and start getting some of their time back.
Yeah. So getting right into it, virtual assistants. And as you're coming in, Before we even get started, a like is going to go a long way if you're here listening live, and also commenting down below. Any questions you have, the master here, and I'm not speaking about myself. That is Joseph. Is really I brought him in specifically to do some private trainings for my real estate team and their friends. So he's somebody that I highly respect in this space because he knows how to make it work. So going back from a very foundational level, what does a virtual assistant technically mean, Joseph? We'll start
Yeah,
there,
virtual assistant.
then we'll keep going.
Sure. So yeah, so a virtual assistant can be anybody that is working for your business and working from anywhere that's not in your office, right? They could be somebody that's down the street from you, um, which is proven to be something that we need, obviously, in the world today. Or they can be somewhere as far as the Philippines, where most of mine are, or in Mexico, where one of my VAs is located. The virtual assistant role has really changed and has become more dynamic than it's ever been before. Like, I know some virtual assistants that are making 6 figures a year, right? So those of you who are agents, even the agents who are listening to this that maybe don't enjoy going out to sell, can also be virtual assistants for different things. But in a nutshell, if you will, a virtual assistant is essentially somebody who is working anywhere but in somebody's office, but working for that person.
Awesome. So let's dig right into that, and then we'll kind of go into the set method, which I'd like for you to introduce. But
Yeah.
you mentioned something that I think a lot of people are going to immediately resonate with, because they've heard basically virtual assistant in a different setting, and that's through a transaction coordinator. So if you think about most individuals, so most real estate agents have a virtual assistant, but it's known as a transaction coordinator that helps you get that transaction after it goes into contract to close. So several of you have a brokerage that gives you that option to have a transaction coordinator. They add that onto your as part of your fees or as part of your commission, just that value add for you to be part of that brokerage. But you can hire a virtual assistant as long as they know what they're doing from anywhere. So if they know the Texas, the addendums, the agreements, the contracts, everything else that's needed, they're the ones that are taking that to close. They're the ones that are following up with your clients. They're the ones that are sending out the documents. They're the ones that are basically taking all of that admin stuff that we as real estate agents don't like doing, a majority of it.
Love to do.
Right. And so we're scrambling on the day of closing just so we can get that commission check at the end of the day. But that's what's up. So just because you haven't heard of virtual assistants in that word, you've been experiencing it through your real estate business, and most of you through the form of what's known as a transaction coordinator.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think a lot of people, whenever they hear the word virtual assistant, they get scared. Not necessarily because they know what a virtual assistant is, but because they don't know what it is, right? It's a fear of the unknown. And I used to be that way. I mean, I'm sure you used to be that way. I don't know if scared is the right word, but worried about what could happen versus learning of what the upside is of having somebody work for you, right? Or with you is the way I talk to my team and talk with my team. They work with me, not for me. And so, yeah, transaction coordinator is a great example of that. You don't necessarily meet with your transaction coordinator all the time. Not now, some agents will, but most transaction coordinators are somebody, their name, you've seen their picture and their email, probably maybe had a video chat with them at some point now because of where we are, but in the past, you probably never even saw their face, right? And so people don't realize that they are working with virtual assistants in some capacity, especially when it comes to transaction coordinating. Now you're just looking at it as somebody who you could possibly hire directly for yourself to do way more than just transaction coordinating.
100%. And it's actually in that way more that we really, as we are preparing for this podcast, that's really where we had the most fun, I would like to say, because we're talking about how to get real estate leads, on autopilot, if you will, using the set method. So go ahead and drop it on them, Joseph. What is the set method?
Yeah, so set method is, you hear a lot of people talk about using somebody else's money, right? Set method is very similar to that, except now you're using somebody else's time, right? So someone else's time. And the set method can be used in so many facets of the real estate business. I'll give you some examples. If you are somebody who does a lot of listings, well, if you're using somebody else's time rather than you have to go do some of the things that you don't want to do, like going to open doors or, setting up signs and those type of things, right? But for everything else, for inputting the information into the MLS, to following up with your clients to make sure they know exactly what's going on with the transaction, having the VA send out the offers if you want them to send out the offers, if you're okay with that and everything's kosher in your market and they're allowed to do that, to cleaning up your email, to sending out emails, to creating newsletters, to creating content for your social media platforms using Canva. So whenever we're talking about the set method is essentially what we consider is someone else's time. So if you know the things that you want somebody to do, typically we say, hey, what are the things that you don't enjoy doing? You allow your VA to do those things, right? And so the set method can be utilized in so many ways. If you just think about the things you don't enjoy doing every day that you have to do, your VA can go do those things for you.
100%, 100%. So essentially using somebody else's time, that's, there's so many different ways that you can do that. But one of the ways that we really wanted to dig into for this podcast was, since we know our audience and who we're generally speaking to, so we understand that not everybody, you may be exception, but not everybody has enough tasks in terms of, I have these listings, I have these buyers, you may not have the business there to keep somebody else's time fully occupied. We fully understand that. So we wanted to share with you is how to actually leverage somebody else's time to prospect for you, use somebody else's time to help you bring in the business, and ultimately help that business pay for them. Because if they're not out there helping you and rowing together, then you're not going to have a VA longer than a couple of months, because you're not going to be able to pay for them. And there's nothing, I was about to say there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, there is something wrong with that. You, at the end of the day, you and I were talking about this off air, you have a responsibility at some point to your VA, whether you want to or not. They're not just this unicorn that's out there that just does all this work. At some point, they provide a lot of value to your business. So you want to make sure that you support them and you take that as an ownership of their, not necessarily their livelihood, but yeah, in a way you're contributing to their livelihood. So one of those things, keeping that in mind, I don't want to get too off topic, but that's a real thing. We're accustomed to that. Well, that VA didn't work, somebody else.
And
that's not how we operate. Somebody else is going to, full disclosure, just behind the scenes, after we get through recording here, one of our VAs is going to take this and just make it sing. So they're the ones that are going to upload it. They're going to distribute it everywhere. So if you're listening to us, especially on Apple Podcasts, you're going to give us that 5-star review, which would be fantastic. After you do that, just realize that it was us doing this interaction right here. This is the last time that we're going to see this file. This is the last time that Joseph and I are going to see each other until next week. We're going to, of course, we're friends. We're going to chat, but this is the last time that we do this. As soon as the recording's done, it gets sent over to one of our VAs and it's done.
Yeah. And so here's the thing about that. A lot of people don't think, so I'd like to hit on that point that you said. A lot of people don't think they have enough for a VA to do in order to hire a VA. Well, reality is you don't feel like you have enough for them to do because you actually haven't sat down and written anything down, right? So on your day-to-day task, you need to go through and say, here's what I do every single day. And then you need to say this to yourself. What are the things that I wanted to do that I haven't done? What are the courses that I bought that I haven't gone through? What are the things that I said I would do in 2020 that I didn't do that I should be doing in 2021? And I still haven't started them. By the way, we're in the second quarter, right? And so whenever I talk to agents about this and we have these conversations, my conversation is always, what did you want to do? And why haven't you done it? Well, I haven't had enough time, or I just didn't make the time. Okay, well, guess what? You just created yourself again by hiring a VA. This VA is going to be somebody that's going to go out there and do all the things that you wanted to do, that you didn't have the quote unquote time to do. And now they're going to be able to do those things. So I'll give some people some examples of things that we do in our business. Every single day, I write not every single day. I have written templates that will last a month to 2 months, maybe half a year sometimes. The VAs will go out and they'll send these templates to agents, right, to work with us as their marketing coordinator or whatever have you, marketing team. And so my VAs will go out and send these templates as if they were me, having conversations with clients. The clients will respond back. If I need to get on a call with the client for whatever reason, the VA will let me know. But a lot of the times, the VA will actually take care of everything. So I have VAs at a couple of different steps, but for the most part, one VA does recruiting, and then the other VA does the setup of campaigns that we need them to set up, right? And then I come in and I oversee everything that I need to oversee. And so for those of you who are wondering, like, okay, how do I make sure that I have enough for them to do? Think about what you want to accomplish and what's going to make you money, and how do you get somebody else to help you do those things, right? And so that method has, Jaime, you know some of our numbers and stuff, that method has allowed me to create a livelihood and help them also create a livelihood for themselves that sustains all of us, right? And so you can't be afraid just because you don't know what to do. We're telling you some of these things, some of the insides and behind the scenes of, I don't talk to anybody unless I have to, and I still make a great living, right? So a lot of agents don't really understand that. It's like, you don't have to talk to a lead till the lead's ready to talk to you, right? About buying or selling a house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So getting really tactical, and that's a great point. So getting really tactical of what you were just sharing, of what you want to do. So the beauty of this podcast is not only do we share with you kind of the strategies behind different things, we very rarely spend time in strategies. We really get into tactical as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And just share anything on the back end. So if there's any questions, please feel free to drop them down below. But to get those juices flowing, so you're thinking, okay, I want a VA, but I still have that writer's block. Totally understandable. So think about it this way. Let's just say you wanted to get better at social media. So here's one strategy for you. Insert any social media platform. We're going to go with Facebook because that's where most of you live. You can do this on LinkedIn. You can do this on Instagram, what have you. So you can set aside tops 2 hours a month, tops, thinking, what type of content do I want to share? You don't overthink it. Don't think images, don't think articles, don't think anything. I want to talk about the housing market. Okay. I want to talk about these lumber prices. I want to talk about this blah, 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 blah. So you just write down everything that you could possibly think of that you want to cover that particular month. So now you have your brainstormed ideas ready to go. You can take that over and send it over to your virtual assistant. Hey, find me an article that talks about this particular point. And once you have those articles, then just send them back to me for me to approve. If you want to get that involved, at this point, I don't. Or you can find find me a meme or create a meme or create a graphic or do whatever that addresses these points. Go and find a stat on the government website that talks about the foreclosure rate, and then pull that graphic and then go over to Canva and create an image out of it. So basically you've come up with the content indirectly, but now you've given specific points. You can go and ask them to create pull an article so you can share a link. You can ask them to pull a meme if it happens to be relevant. You can ask them to create an infographic. If it's already out there, they can just replicate it and rebrand it under yours. So that's the last time that you're ever going to have to see that, because all you have to do now is just approve them, and then they're going to start posting them on your social media. So it gets even deeper. So let me know if I'm going off pace here, Joseph, at any point. So once they start posting, let's just say on Mondays, it's a themed Monday, Motivation Monday or whatever. They post Motivation Monday on your Facebook, and then you're going to get people liking, you're going to get people commenting. You can take one step further. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Virtual Assistant, also anybody that likes, just send them a quick DM. Hey, thanks for liking my post. I liked it too. And just continue going that way, where again, we're talking about 2 hours worth of effort. And then your entire month is taken care of. Somebody else has taken that's just one example. And we may think, well, oh, it's just an article. Oh, it's just an image. Well, if it was so simple, why aren't you doing it? If it's just an article, it's just an image, then why aren't you doing it? That's it. I was about to go on a rant, but I won't.
Well, so here's the thing. And started bugging out here for some reason. I'm going to try to make an adjustment here and see if we can. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Check. Okay. So that's what happens whenever you have highly safe room here on the 42nd floor. So here's the thing. A lot of agents do think that all these things are simple. And a lot of the agents that we talk to, like, I can just do that. It's like, again, why haven't you done it? Right. And it happens all the time. We talk to agents all the time. And because we keep track of agents, we'll look at their stuff and be like, hey, it's been a year since we chatted with you. Have you started doing XYZ? And it's usually the answer is no, right? It's like, oh, I thought it was really simple, right? You were gonna do that. You're gonna help your business grow. And oftentimes, what typically happens is agents have such a big ego that they won't let their ego get out of the way to allow them to be successful, right? And so whenever we talk to these agents, they say those type of things. It's like, listen, if you would just get out of your own way, and a lot of people are like, what does that mean? Get out of your own way and let your ego get out of the way so that somebody else can do the work that you're not willing to do, right? And oftentimes that's what it comes down to, is people are not willing to do certain work, but their ego is so big that they won't let somebody else do it because they'll do it better than they do, right? And I'm of the opposite mindset where I'm like, yo, if somebody can do this way better than me, I will hire them, pay them, and let them run with that thing. Because I personally know that I won't do that. That I won't send 10 newsletters a month. That's not going to be me. I'm not that type of person, right? So I'll hire somebody else and let them send the newsletters. Hey, go research emails, right? Do all these other things that I know I wanted to do that I'm just not ever going to do.
No, that's spot on. That's spot on. Even going into more tactical strategies. So that was a way to deploy your virtual assistant in the social media world. If you want to go one step further into where they're actively prospecting, they can absolutely go on. Let's go over on LinkedIn. We were talking about Facebook. Let's go over on LinkedIn. Sure. They can search by professions of doctors in your area, attorneys in your area, dentists in your area. Those jobs that are generally higher paying and are a little bit more stable, to where the types of, the types of homes that they purchase. Not trying to categorize, but in a way I am trying to categorize. They're
not small.
You need to be exact on as exact as you can whenever you're sharing strategies over the airwaves, if you will, through just audio format. So when you go over on LinkedIn, when you search let's just say dentist, because it just came to mind. Search for those people, search for those dentists in your area. You don't have to reach out to them. Your virtual assistant can help you in doing that direct prospecting and start the conversation. You may need to, you will need to come up with, what do you want to say, as opposed and to be a little bit more tactful, instead of just saying, hey, I'm a realtor in the area. Do you want to buy or sell a house? No, you're just going to start a relationship. So that first outreach, that can be done by virtual assistants. And then you pick up the conversation when they say no, or they say yes, or they say, tell me more, what have you. So these are ways that somebody else is helping you in your prospecting. That doesn't require you being in front of the computer and you doing it. So these are simple as we talked about, but they're effective. And these are ways that you can start growing your business in tandem to everything else administratively that your virtual assistant can help you with. We're talking about doing some revenue generating activities that are ultimately going to pay for the virtual assistant and also pay you for their efforts.
Correct. I'm glad you brought up the point of pay you or pay your virtual assistants, right, and make you money. Another conversation that we have often whenever we're working with agents is, well, what should I have my VA do? It's like, well, you should have them do things that are going to make you money. Because I know some other people are like, well, you don't need your virtual assistant to help you make money because they're going to take away the tasks that aren't making you money so you can focus on those tasks. And reality is, most agents, if you give them more free time, they're going to waste it, right? And they're not going to spend that free time on doing the things that are going to make them money, because those things just aren't fun, right? They're not as fun as sitting around and watching YouTube all day. I can tell you from experience, because that's what I do a lot of time. So that free time, I enjoy the free time. And the reason I created the free time is so I could have it and take the time to do what I want to do. And so my virtual assistants do things that make me money. And so my point, and that allows me to pay them. So whenever I talk to agents, I tell them, make sure you're having your VA do something that makes you money. That is outreach and follow-up. Those are the two first things they need to be doing. As much as we want to be able to have them do a whole bunch of admin work, which is perfectly fine, my first thing is have them help them help themselves. You help them pay for themselves, right? So I'll say that again. You help them pay for themselves. And if you can help them pay for themselves, the rest is history. You can do whatever you want at that point, not whatever, but for your business, do whatever you want. And you will find a lot more success and be happier knowing that your VA is paid for versus worrying about what admin work they're going to be doing.
100%, 100%. So again, we're going based off of the strategy of, using somebody else's time. Now, that's something that we talked about, taking that ownership on. It's not a unicorn. It's not somebody that's doesn't have feelings, doesn't have emotions, they'll just automatically do something. I know that we're simplifying it here because we have to. So let's take one step back and talk about how to implement them into your business. So the virtual assistant can only do so much with the information that you give them. So again,
Correct.
They can only do so much with the information that you give them. So if you say, post on LinkedIn, they're going to post on LinkedIn, but it might not be what you want. So you need to be more tactful in your exchange. So you can use, what's your project management's, I always forget what that one's called. Which one do you use? I use Trello. I need to use something different.
Yeah, we use Slack for our communication, and we use Asana for our project management.
There you go. So regardless of which one you use, if my camera ever comes back on, there we go. So regardless of whichever one that you use, you need to be an effective communicator to somebody else that is going to help you in your business. So when it comes to, let's just say you wanted to deploy one of the strategies that we just talked about, well, you can record yourself sharing the exact ways that you want to see it done, because at the end of the day, they're responsible to you. You can record how you want it done. If you don't know how something is done, let's just say I want to create a new page on WordPress. That's a little bit complex. I don't even know how to do that. So I either go online and search for something myself that I think will be beneficial, or I just take that and make that the first task for the virtual assistant. All right, go online and research how it's done. I don't have time to go and pre-filter these out. So go and find which one will actually, which video actually gets the job done for us. And then go ahead and create it. Or you can actually buy a course and have your have your virtual assistants go through it. So there's ways to provide those resources without you having to know exactly how things are done. But again, the most important thing here is communicate with your virtual assistants. And some of that could be through the project management tools that we just talked about, but you cannot go wrong by over communicating.
Yeah. So a lot of you said this earlier, Jaime, a lot of agents will go from virtual assistant to virtual assistant. And not saying it's always the case, but typically the issue is the agent doesn't know how to communicate, right? The VA is going to do what you ask them to do. However, if there's not enough detail to tell them exactly what to do, and then something goes wrong, well, it's not the VA's fault. The VA is going to bust their tail if they're a good VA, which, if you do your due diligence, you'll find a good VA. They're going to do the job. You just need to make sure that you have enough detail. And then if there's enough detail there and you feel really comfortable and you're like, okay, if I were to give this to somebody else, if I were to give it to myself, actually, if I were to give it to my own kid, my parents, my aunt, my sister, and they got it, I knew they could do it, or a kindergartner is probably the best way to say it, is like, you need to have enough instruction that a kindergartner could accomplish this task. If that's the case and they're able to get that detail, the job's going to be done really well. But typically most agents have never hired anybody before, and so they don't know what level of detail to go in. So I used to hold a weekly mastermind call with my agents that have virtual assistants through us, but I guess they got so good they didn't need to have if some of them are watching, they've gotten so good now that they don't need us. But one of the calls that we would have, and one of the guys, he had his virtual assistant. I think he's probably done 3 or 4 deals at least. I know 3 deals for sure with his virtual assistant since he hired her. And they're pretty large deals. They're in Colorado. And the first deal happened within the first couple of weeks with his virtual assistant. The first virtual assistant was not a good virtual assistant for him. And we identified that, and we went through things to make sure that they weren't. So I want to talk about that for a minute, Jaime, is you're going to come across some VAs that won't be good in your business, and you need to learn how to identify that. That's why whenever I help agents recruit VAs, we have a policy like, let's go ahead and check and see what's going on for a week, 2 weeks. And if there's a consistent problem there, then we'll find you another VA. If the problem is because of communication, which we'll be able to identify, then we'll make sure we coach you on making sure you know how to actually go through and teach your VA to do the things you want them to do. So his first VA was not a good VA because she just couldn't accomplish the task that he needed her to accomplish. And we have identified that. We looked at his SOPs, which is standard operating procedures for those of you who don't know. And so those were really good. He did a great job. And so we got another VA in, and within the week or 2 weeks, they had a deal together, right? She paid for herself. And so a lot of agents, though, won't take the time to actually even assess what they're doing or have somebody else assess what they're doing with their VA to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So you need to be able to know what you're assessing to be able to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And if you don't know how to assess those things, then of course failure is going to be the route that you take, right? But again, that comes down to ego and saying, I suck at communicating. Can somebody help me? Right?
Yeah. And that's and you're not wrong for saying it. There's a lot of us that cycled through VA. A lot of that is not even their fault. Most of it isn't their fault. It's us.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's all most of the time it's us. Not all the time, but most of the time it's us.
Yeah.
Because what we have to realize is, especially in the Philippines, there's an entire industry. I don't know what it's called right now because it's escaping me, but there's an entire industry dedicated to helping companies here in the United States.
Yeah, I think it's like jobs.ph or something like that, right? As a website that's dedicated to.
That's a website that does help placement. But there's like an actual, it's like here the restaurant industry or hospitality industry, or there's an entire industry of, helping here because many of them have worked in call centers for AT&T, for
Visa, MasterCard,
any major company you can think of. They have that training. So we're spoiled, to be candid with you. We're pretty spoiled. Now, of course, people are people. I'm not saying that everyone is going to be stellar, but you're going to be, going back to your point, if you're good at communicating or just at least decent in communicating, it's going to be pretty evident very soon with their failure, with their success, or if they're willing to do the work, the human nature comes out. So that's a very valuable point that people need to identify. And one pro tip that I can give people is, don't do things on a one-to-one setting. Meaning, if you're going to train somebody, I personally, I'd like to get your take on this. I personally don't do a one-on-one session training anybody. If I want to learn, if I want to share with how to do a new task, I'll either write everything down or I'll record a video about it and then upload it to Trello, if you will. I don't do a one-on-one setting. The only time I do one-on-one settings is when we need to have just a conversation on kind of where we are going directionally. But I don't do one-on-ones like, hey, let's get on the call and I'll show you how to do this. No, because I don't have that video now, or I don't have those SOPs now, that in the event things go sideways, I'm not able to put it somewhere else, have somebody else come in, watch the same video, and then deploy from there. So I lose that valuable asset.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So we're the same way. The only time we get on calls for two reasons. One, to check our direction and where we're headed as a business. Two, the other reason is really just to do a check-in, right? How's it going this week? How are you feeling about things? Is there anything that you're missing that I need to make sure that I'm doing, right? And so the check-in is on them, and the check-in is on myself as well, right? To hold each other accountable. As far as the second piece of that, for the SOPs, I tell all of my agents, create your SOPs, because there are going to be times whenever you or your VA, mostly your VA, will have things that come up. whether it's weather or they have family stuff that happens, catastrophes that happen in the Philippines. They got a new job because their spouse said they had to get another job, or they had a baby. Like there's so many things that can happen in the human life, right? That would take your VA away from working for you to go do something else, right? And so if you have your SOPs established, you can just plug somebody else in. And I'm not saying people are dispensable. I want to be very clear. Like I love my VAs that I have hired. If they watch this video, they know that. I tell them that all the time. I care about them. They're a big part of my business. They run my business. And but you need to have your SOPs, because they've even seen where we've had to let people go or people have gone because of family matters, right? But if you have those SOPs established, literally you say, hey, here's what the other person was doing. We had somebody else in this role. We'd like to see if you're able to accomplish these things. And if you are, they were able to do it. But if you have questions, let us know. And now you just give them what they need. And you don't have, another 40 hours, 80 hours of training that you have to go do one-on-one with somebody. They literally just jump into the training there and start doing the task immediately, right? And so that's why the SOPs are so important.
100%, 100%. So Joseph, going back into the tactical world, we kind of did a little bit of a reset to take us back to the action items. What other strategy could we share to, again, focus on our topic at hand, how to generate real estate leads on autopilot? What other strategy would you like to share with our listeners that they could deploy the virtual assistant on? And I'll give you a couple of seconds on that, because I want to remind everybody that if you're here live, a like is going to go a long way, because it's going to send out the notifications. But also, if you're listening to us on the podcast, a 5-star review would go a longer way. So really do appreciate you being a loyal listener of the Agent Lead Source podcast, as we're talking really in depth of some virtual assistants. You're going to hear some general conversations from a lot of other podcasts, and this is where I go into throwing shade at other people. You're going to hear use virtual assistants. Well, how do I do that? Yeah, just hire them, and just figure it out. So that really grinds my gears, because sure, the concept is there, but there's no substance. But you hear me say this all the time. That's the sizzle. It's not necessarily the steak. So that's really where we pride ourselves, where we've given you basically the entire blueprint right now, and key elements that you need to get right, how to actually get them right, and how to deploy them. So I can go on forever. So just want to kind of go back into some practical tactical strategies that some agents can deploy.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're watching this live here on YouTube, make sure you let us know where you're tuning in from, so we can kind of get an idea where our audience is located. So let's go tactical. So let's go prospecting, right? I feel like any agent who's in this business, that's your number one goal. I think I made a video about this, or I have a video that I'm about to release on YouTube. That is the number one thing that agents need to do whenever they get their license is not learn how to do contracts, but to learn how to do prospecting, because contracts themselves that are phantom contracts aren't going to make you money. Jumping into the fire, if you will, and doing a live contract is what's going to make you money, meaning you have a prospect who's ready to buy or sell a house. And so anyway, let's jump into prospecting. What I want agents to understand is there's many forms of prospecting. The number one form of prospecting that we do is organic marketing. If you have never done Facebook Marketplace advertising before, that means your account is primed to be able to do Facebook Marketplace advertising. If you have a virtual assistant, you should have your virtual assistant go out and find a training on how to go out and use Facebook Marketplace to generate leads. That's step one. Step two, the other part that agents are terrible at, is follow-up. You need to create a template, or go find somebody else who has a great template on the internet that you like and admire and follow, and see what their follow-up template is like, and then hand that template over to your VA. And so now you've created lead generation for free. Somebody else is doing that, again, somebody else's time. You've created follow-up, again, using somebody else's time. And now whenever that lead is ready to purchase, buy, or talk to an agent, guess what? That's the only time you talk to that lead. And so this whole process is done and behind the scenes. You don't even know what's going on most of the time until the VA is like, hey, I've got somebody that has a 720 credit score that has a 20% down payment. And you're like, cool. let's jump on a phone call. Oh my gosh, let's do it, right? And so a lot of agents don't realize these things can be accomplished. And so we have lots of agents that have closed deals with our VAs that just literally do that. That's their job, right? They do lead generation, they do follow-up, and then they send a good prospect to the agent, and then the agent does their part that they're supposed to do. So that's one form of it, Facebook Marketplace. The other form of that is having your VA create what we call phantom posts. Jaime, we've talked about this in a previous podcast, but you can create a series of phantom posts that your VA can post on a weekly basis or every other day. Example, how old were you whenever you bought your first home? Have you bought a home in 2021? Are you thinking about buying a home in 2021? What would you change about your house? Like, these are things you can give to your VA and tell them what day to post those and what time to post those, because you're not going to do it. Let's be honest. Like, if you created 50 posts in your mind, you're like, I'm going to post this post every Tuesday at 3 p.m. The first Tuesday, maybe the second Tuesday you make it to it. After that, you'll never do it again, right? You get busy doing other things. And I'm not saying you're lazy. I'm just saying you get busy. Your VA, that's their job. So every Tuesday at 3 p.m., guess what's going to happen? That post is going to happen. And by the way, whenever somebody posts, you can tell them the next step is to comment. The next step is to send them a message. The next step is to send them a video. Like, all these steps are all pre-framed. So then you just give it to the VA. This is what you do on this day. And then it's just done, right? And so the reason we talk about the phantom post is because you're creating prospects that are in your friends list that maybe forgot you're a real estate agent. Maybe they forgot that you do real estate at all. And so now your content is all about getting people interacting with your page and then getting your VA to follow up with them to let them know, hey, by the way, thank you for commenting on my post. They send them a message. Hey, saw your comment. Wanted to let you know, that I was thinking about you. Hope you're doing really well. If you have any questions about real estate, shoot me a message. And that could be a video, by the way, that you can send in Facebook Messenger that they just hit forward on. So they can literally just forward the message to somebody else. And the person receiving it has no idea that it's a forwarded message. Yeah. And that's a secret tip for those of you who don't know how to do that. Facebook Messenger, it's super easy. And literally they send video, like all my happy birthday messages that I send. Those of you who've ever received these, watching this or listening, literally my VA just hits forward to the person. Like, they go to one person's from the previous day and they just hit forward to the next person. That's literally all they do, right? And so very simple forms of prospecting, but very lucrative.
100%. So there's just so much there. There's a prospecting, there's a nurture, there's a conversion. There's so many different aspects to that. I want to go dial back and talk about the Facebook Marketplace strategy. Not because I have anything to color in, because you covered it perfectly, but I wanted to just draw people's attention to the lack of wasted motion. So it's just so fluid. So what you needed to develop. So if you listen back, as you're listening this in repeat, if you listen back to the steps that Joseph outlined, the only thing you really required was just movement, just to set it into motion. So Joseph covered an element of, well, if you don't know how to do it, then find somebody that you respect, somebody that actually knows what they're doing, and replicate that. So it wasn't Joseph going in and doing all these budgets, typing in all these different things. It's, this is what I want done, and these are ways that you can actually get it done. And then on Tuesday, I expect to post. Yeah. So it's just those different, it's just that different mindset. It just requires action at this point. So now that you're aware and you want to get virtual assistants and you want to get going, actually, I think it would be, I know you're going to hit me for this, but I think it'd be appropriate for you to kind of share what you do, because in terms of, with your business, because that's something I personally use as well. So I want to make sure that people are aware that they don't have to go into the ether. You have a solution. And I know you're going to hate me for that, but I think it's appropriate for you to kind of share what.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of self-promotion on our podcast or anything like that, even on my own YouTube channel. But yeah, I'll share some information, Jaime, for sure. I am not a big pat on my back type of person. But anyway, so what we typically do is we used to not hire out VAs to agents who wanted part-time. but we started getting such a strong demand that we felt like that was something that we needed to do. So now we actually hire out part-time VAs, and then this allows agents to see what a VA can accomplish at a part-time price, right, versus a full-time price. And then if the agent decides to move forward, then they just owe us the remaining budget, which is, I think we charge 1/6 of what we normally charge for part-time to get started. We train the VA, we get you the VA, all that fun stuff. And then once you decide to go full-time with your VA, then you just pay us the remaining. And what we tell agents is, if you're part-time with your VA and you close the deal with your VA, then that's the time that you should move forward with full-time, because they're starting to make you money, right? And I would say typically the cost for that is way less than a referral fee. And so that's how I tell agents to think about it is, okay, if I'm hiring a VA for part-time work, and then I got to pay this company, Joseph's company, if I were to close a deal with that, would I pay a referral fee? Yeah, definitely. Because it would make sense, right? I'm making money, and all I'm paying is a referral fee on it. But if I had to pay less than a referral fee, then it's a no-brainer. And so our VAs come to you trained on organic marketing. They come to you trained on follow-up. And then we also apply more training, give them more training to go through. And then they have bi-weekly calls or bi-monthly calls with my head VAs to see what we're doing behind the scenes as well, so they can apply that to your business in the way they need to.
Bam, 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 bam. So, I mean, you have no excuse now, guys. You have no excuse. This is, you can go you can go to those websites. And we mentioned one a little bit a while ago, so we're not going to go back there, but virtual assistants you can find in a lot of places. So you can go and, go at it yourselves. You're more than welcome to. This isn't a pitch. It's a reality. You can go and do it and try to replicate, or you can reach out to Joseph. That's something that he does. Send him a DM. I just put in the chat, for those of you that are listening, I put Joseph's channel here. So make sure you subscribe, and also search for Joseph Gonzalez on YouTube, and show him some love from the YouTube channel. We're going live here on my channel. So make sure that you go and subscribe. All of our contact information will be linked down below, so you can find us easily. So as you're reaching out to him to inquire about this, and just make sure that you mentioned that's from the Agent Resource Podcast, because we love to hear from people that are coming from here. This is a platform that we've been going strong for 40 plus weeks at this point, because we have some lost episodes that we won't mention.
The lost episodes.
That's before we had our VAs take over. So that's how we're susceptible to it too. But now we know they're going to get done because our virtual assistants take over. So go ahead.
I do want to say something to a point you just made, and this is not bragging on myself or anything like that. We over 50% of our agents that have hired a VA through us have been agents that have gone and tried it themselves. They used Upwork, and then jobs.ph.
Yep.
And what they don't realize is it's not just hiring a human being to do the work that you want them to do, but you have to understand what work you want them to do and understand how to set up SOPs. And so a lot of agents will go out and be like, okay, I'll just circumvent this process and go find somebody myself. And they don't realize all the work that and all of the foundation that they've missed. And so I want a lot of agents to think about that. I implore you to go, if you can do it yourself, I want you to do it yourself. Like, even whenever I talk to marketing clients, I'm like, if you don't have to spend money with us, please don't, because I don't want you to spend money with us. I like your money. I'll take your money. But if you can learn to do something yourself, I'd rather you do that, because that's more powerful for yourself, right? But again, hiring another human being, you need to know what you need them to do and know how to get them to do that thing before you actually hire them. So anyway, I just wanted to say that over 50%, I think over 50%, or just at 50% of our agents that hire VAs have tried to do it themselves. And then they come to us because they weren't unsuccessful in doing it. Right.
And another point, so great that you brought that up. Another point is, you're not going to find somebody as cost effective or efficient, I don't know the correct word, that Joseph's company does. You're just not. And listen to this. Of course, he's my friend, and I'll do a lot for him, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. So I speak to thousands of real estate agents every single year. So I know the inner workings of a lot of brokerages. I know the inner workings of a lot of the vendors that they work with. Some of them that I could mention here, and you will absolutely know who I'm talking about. But as far as the effectiveness and as far as the cost, nothing's going to come close. And this isn't me trying to sell this. I get no cut, no commission or anything else from Joseph. I just want him to be successful. He wants me to be successful. We're not necessarily, we need sponsors here, not because we don't want them.
Yeah.
Sponsor our podcast. It's been 40 episodes. Come on, guys. But no, so
25,
go ahead.
2,500 downloads of the podcast.
I don't remember now, but it's been
like
it's been pretty good. It's been pretty
That's
good
awesome.
for our niche, for what we talk about. We didn't expect this to be a million download podcast because we actually have too much substance. So what gets the clicks is the hey, use VAs and figure it out. That's sizzle.
$1 million VA.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to make sure that you were off on a good path. And as far as if you do decide to go from an agency standpoint and ask for their results, more importantly than anything, because you're going to see them charge way more than what Joseph's company does, but have much less results. It's going to be bad. I'll just go ahead and say it's going to be bad.
Yeah. What I'll say is, if you get a chance to talk to, or you choose to hire a VA, I don't care if you use me, whoever you use, say, can I talk to your past clients? And so the reason and no matter whatever you purchase, and the reason I always ask people to do that is because you're going to find out the true colors of that business pretty quickly. They'll be like, oh, we don't release our past clients' information. It's like, you should, because if your past clients are happy with you, they'll be happy to talk to somebody else and praise your business model, right? And so I have 3 or 4 agents that I'm like, hey, do you mind chatting with this person at some point and scheduling a time to chat with them? They don't get any money from me. They don't get anything from me. I just know that they're happy with our service. And so if you're going to pay for anything in this real estate game, ask to talk to past clients, because that's who's really going to tell you the truth about the business model.
100%. Joseph, I think we're getting ready for the dismount right now. One of the things that before we get in there is I want to remind that we're doing this right now. We're doing these in the morning. So on Thursdays, if you want to come and hang out, then make sure that you connect with us in our socials. We're pretty good at letting people know when we go live. But as of right now, it's 8 a.m. in the morning. So Central, 8 a.m. Central is when we go live on the Agent Lead Source podcast. But here on the YouTube channel right now, we're trying that out for a little while. And then you can always catch us on the upload. So we publish the actual podcast at noon without fail, because our virtual assistants take really good
much
care
better.
of us. At noon on Fridays. So that's our schedule. We've been very consistent here lately. So just want to make sure that everybody knows where to find us, but also a 5-star review goes a long way. We didn't charge you $1,000 to do this mastermind, although I think we could have with this one, Joseph, because this topic makes you a lot of money. This topic really shares the inner workings of what people actually need. Not what they want, but what they actually need. So I think now would be a good time to, give us that 5-star review, but also it'd be a great time for the dismount. So I'll let you go first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Sure. I'll say this to anybody who's thinking about hiring a virtual assistant. You're on the fence about hiring a virtual assistant. A lot of people will ask the question, well, how do I know if I'm ready? The main way to know if you're ready is, can you afford to pay $500 to $600 per month and not worry about it for 6 months? Meaning that 6 times 5 is $3,000, or 6 times 600 is $3,600, right? If I did my math correctly. And so if, or $3,000 to $3,600 over the course of 6 months, or maybe even a full transaction. If you feel comfortable doing that, then that's the time that you should be able to hire a VA. And the reason being is, if you believe that a VA, you have to tell me if my internet's going in and out or not here.
You're good. It was for a second, but now you're back on.
Let's see here. I think we had a little bit of interruption.
Can you hear me now? All right. So
I'm good to go.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, good deal. So yeah, so if you believe your VA can in 6 months can create a transaction or two transactions or through the year, and they're paid for off of one transaction, then that's the time that you should move forward with a VA, right? So again, I'll say that one more time. If you have 6 months of runway, $500 to $600 per month, and you don't have to worry about that money, and you know that VA can help you, that's when you hire a VA.
That's a great formula. That's a great formula, Joseph. So it gives somebody something tangible. Now, I was going to share something similar, so I'll kind of backtrack. Joseph mentioned, the 6 months, giving it a run. So what I encourage you to do is I want you to take action as quickly as possible, but let's get a little bit more practical. Take 2 weeks and really identify what you want to happen in your business. I want to get better at social media. What does that mean for you? Does that mean a post a day? Does that mean a post a week? Whatever. I want to get better at YouTube. I want to start YouTube. What does that mean for you? Does that mean one video a week? Does that mean one video a month? Identify those items that you wish I coulda, woulda, shoulda, all that fun stuff. So put that on paper, and then pepper in the that benchmark that Joseph mentioned of give yourself this amount of time, invest this amount of money, and have that virtual assistant help you in that journey. Let's just say at the end of the 6 months, worst case scenario, you didn't get a single client. Okay. But worst case scenario is you got all these different things moving forward. Your YouTube channel was created. Your LinkedIn is now popping, or at least has a presence. You're in all these Facebook groups, and you have a community because your virtual assistant was posting consistently. Your virtual assistant was monitoring the referral groups, and they were pinging you every time they saw a Dallas lead, a Detroit lead, a New York lead. Worst case scenario, you moved your business forward with that amount of money. Now, if you go into this without a plan, and after 6 months, then that's when you're going to say, F you, Joseph, F you, Jaime, this virtual assistant thing sucks. Well, no, F you, because you didn't prepare and get them to do some actual meaningful event in your business to move your business forward. You're the master, you're the captain of your ship.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I think that's great spot to end it. Make sure you're taking control of your own ship, and make sure you're setting things up so that you know exactly what you want somebody to do when they come into your business.
Awesome. Well, folks, I apologize for the FU. Now would be a great time to ask you again for the 5-star review, and we'll see you next week.
All right.